Tang Sanzang and his disciples, Wukong and Beiji, left Mount Floatu and traveled day and night, enduring the elements. As evening approached, they spotted a village in the distance. The three travelers decided to seek lodging in the village. Upon reaching the entrance of a house, they saw an elderly man reclining on a bamboo bed, chanting Buddhist scriptures. Tang Sanzang approached with folded palms and introduced himself as a monk from the Tang dynasty of the eastern land, traveling westward to retrieve scriptures, and requested shelter for the night. The old man shook his head and said, "It's difficult to retrieve scriptures in the western heaven, you won't succeed. If you want scriptures, go to the eastern heaven." Wukong couldn't help but step forward to argue. Mistaking Wukong and Beiji for monsters due to their ugly appearances, the old man panicked and shouted, "Close the door." Just as the situation was escalating, several young men and women with an elderly woman approached from the south of the village to see what the commotion was about. Seeing the chaos at their doorstep, they stumbled and fell in fear when Wukong shook his ears and stretched his mouth. Tang Sanzang struggled to explain, and eventually, the old man and his family calmed down. After exchanging greetings, they offered seats, and the old man promptly asked the young ones to serve tea. Tang Sanzang inquired, "Why did the Venerable Sir say it's difficult to retrieve scriptures in the western heaven?" The old man replied, "It's not that the scriptures are hard to retrieve, it's just that the road is perilous and difficult to traverse. 30 miles west from here lies the Yellow Wind Ridge, spanning 800 miles, where many demons reside. Without extraordinary means, it's impossible to pass through." Wukong said confidently, "No worries. With me, son Wukong, and my junior brother here, any demon is no match for us." Just then, the meal was served. While Tang Sanzang chanted the mealtime sutra with folded palms, Beiji had already finished a bowl and kept clamoring for more food. By the end of the meal, Beiji had devoured all the food prepared by the old man's family, claiming he was only half full. They spent the night in the guest room of the old man's house. The next morning, after breakfast, the master and his disciples expressed their gratitude and prepared to depart. The old man said, "If you encounter any difficulties on the way, please return to our home." Wukong replied, "As monks, we don't turn back." They bid farewell to the old man and continued their journey westward. After traveling for less than half a day, they encountered a towering mountain. They saw the mountain dyed jade green, enveloped in layers of blue mist, indicating its extreme steepness. While they were observing the mountain, a sudden whirlwind arose. Tang Sanzang exclaimed, "Wukong, this wind seems peculiar, be vigilant." Wukong let the wind pass by and then sniffed its tail, detecting a foul odor. He said, "Indeed, this is no ordinary wind. There must be a demon causing trouble." Before he could finish his sentence, a colorful tiger roared and leaped down from the mountain, frightening Tang Sanzang so much that he fell off his horse with a somersault. Beiji dropped their luggage, grabbed his spade, and shouted, "You fiend! Where do you think you're going?" and rushed forward to strike. The tiger stood up straight, grabbed its chest with its front left paw, and pulled down with a rip, shedding its skin to reveal a fierce-looking demon standing by the road. The demon shouted, "Hold on. I am the vanguard under the command of the Yellow Wind King, patrolling this mountain. I intend to capture a few mortals for wine. Who are you, monk, daring to brandish weapons and injure me?" Beiji cursed, "Fiend! I am a disciple of Tang Sanzang from the great Tang of the eastern land, tasked with going to the western heaven to pay respects to Buddha and retrieve scriptures. If you step aside now, I'll spare your life. But if you dare to act recklessly, my spade won't show mercy." The demon, upon hearing this, leaped towards Beiji to claw at his face. Beiji quickly dodged and swung his spade. The demon, unarmed, couldn't defend himself and found an opportunity to escape. Beiji chased after him closely. The demon fled to a chaotic pile of rocks, pulled out 2 red copper knives, and turned around to fight. They fought fiercely in front of the slope. Wukong supported Tang Sanzang and said, "Master, don't be afraid. I'll go help Beiji defeat that demon, and then we can continue our journey." Tang Sanzang, still shaken, kept chanting the Heart Sutra. Beiji fought valiantly, and the demon was soon powerless. Wukong swung his staff and joined the battle. Together with Beiji, they forced the demon down the mountain. The demon panicked and used the trick of transforming, shedding its true form to reveal a fierce tiger once again. Wukong and Beiji pursued relentlessly, determined to eradicate the threat. Seeing Wukong and Beiji closing in, the demon resorted to the tactic of shedding its skin again. It covered a large stone with its skin, revealing its true form, and transformed into a fierce wind, heading straight for where Tang Sanzang was meditating. Tang Sanzang was absorbed in chanting and didn't anticipate the attack. The demon grabbed him with the wind and carried him away. Carrying Tang Sanzang, the demon arrived at the entrance of its cave. It suppressed the fierce wind and ordered a little demon guarding the gate, quickly report to the king. Tell him that the vanguard tiger has captured a monk outside and awaits his command. The tiger vanguard was summoned to meet the king. The tiger vanguard brought Tang Sanzang and knelt before the king, saying, "Your Majesty, I was patrolling the mountain as ordered and encountered Tang Sanzang, the Buddhist monk from the great Tang of the eastern land, traveling to the western heaven. I captured him and present him to your Majesty for your pleasure." The Yellow Wind King was astonished and asked, "I heard that Tang Sanzang has a disciple named Sun Wukong, with vast supernatural powers. How could you capture him?" The tiger vanguard recounted the battle. The Yellow Wind King feared that Wukong and Beiji would be difficult to deal with. He ordered Tang Sanzang to be tied to a wind-resistant stake in the backyard. He planned to indulge himself after a few days without any disturbances. Several little demons dragged Tang Sanzang away. Meanwhile, Wukong and Beiji chased the tiger down the mountainside. Wukong swung his staff forcefully at the tiger, but instead of hitting the tiger, the stones shattered, causing his hands to ache. Beiji swung his spade, but it only hit the tiger's skin, covering a large stone. Wukong was shocked. "Oh no! We fell for the demon's trick of shedding its skin. We must hurry and find our master, before the demon ambushes us." The two hurried back to where Tang Sanzang was meditating, only to find that the white horse and luggage were still there, but Tang Sanzang was nowhere to be seen. Wukong was furious. "Our master has indeed been captured by the demon." Beiji's eyes filled with tears. "Where should we go to find him?" Wukong comforted him. "Don't cry. Crying will only dampen our spirits. We're probably still within this mountain, let's quickly search for him." The two rushed into the mountains, crossing ridges and valleys, searching back and forth. Underneath a cliff, they found a cave. Wukong instructed Beiji to find a sheltered spot to guard the luggage and horses, while he went to fight the demon and rescue their master. Wukong arrived at the cave entrance, and saw 6 large characters engraved on the door: Yellow Wind Cave of Yellow Wind Ridge. Wukong raised his staff high and shouted, "Demon! Release my master immediately, or I will destroy your nest and flatten your dwelling." The guarding demon hastily reported inside the cave. Upon hearing that Wukong had come, the Yellow Wind Demon quickly summoned the Tiger Vanguard and complained, "I sent you to patrol the mountain. Bringing back some mountain oxen or fat deer for us to feast on would have been fine, but why did you capture Tang Sanzang? Now his disciple has come knocking, how should we deal with this?" The Tiger Vanguard said, "Do not worry, your Majesty. I am willing to lead 50 little demons out and capture that monkey." The Yellow Wind Demon nodded in agreement, promising to become sworn brothers if he succeeded. The Tiger Vanguard gathered 50 strong little demons, beat drums and waved flags, wielded 2 red copper knives, and marched out of the cave, shouting loudly, "Where did this pesky monk come from, daring to make a scene here?" Wukong cursed, "You skin-shedding beast! Release my master immediately, and I might spare your life." The Tiger Vanguard retorted, "Your master was about to become the king's appetizer. Now that you've come, we might spare one for every one you buy." Enraged, Wukong lifted his staff and attacked. The Tiger Vanguard hurriedly defended with his knives. The two displayed their prowess, fighting fiercely outside the cave. After a while, the Tiger Vanguard couldn't hold on any longer and turned to flee. Having boasted in front of the Yellow Wind Demon, he didn't dare return to the cave but ran straight up the hillside. Wukong refused to let him escape and chased after him with his staff. As they ran, they arrived at the spot where Beiji was guarding the horses. Hearing the commotion, Beiji saw Wukong chasing the demon and abandoned the horses, rushing forward with his spade. The tiger vanguard was solely focused on escaping and didn't watch his front. Beiji caught him off guard, thrusting his spade diagonally, striking him squarely on the head and creating 9 holes. The demon fell dead to the ground. Beiji asked about their master's whereabouts. Wukong said, "This demon has captured our master in the cave. You've killed this demon, so the credit is yours. Stay here and guard the horses and luggage. I'll go defeat the old demon and rescue our master." Beiji nodded repeatedly in agreement. Wukong carried the tiger's body in one hand and his iron staff in the other, arriving at the entrance of the Yellow Wind Cave and throwing down the tiger's corpse while shouting insults. Upon hearing that the tiger vanguard had been killed and Wukong was challenging him at the entrance, the Yellow Wind demon quickly armed himself, took a 3-pronged steel fork, and led a group of demons out of the cave. The Yellow Wind demon stood at the entrance and shouted, "Which one of you is son Wukong?" Wukong stepped on the tiger's corpse and replied, "Your grandson is here. Release my master immediately." Seeing Wukong's thin and short stature, the demon sneered, "I thought you were a formidable warrior, but you're just a weakling." Wukong chuckled, "You fool. Although I may appear small, if you grasp the handle of your fork, you'll grow 3 feet taller." The demon laughed, "Then I'll hit you with my fork," and swung the fork at Wukong's head. Wukong remained unfazed, bent his waist slightly, and grew over 10 feet tall. Startled, the demon tried to adjust his fork and aimed it at Wukong's chest. Wukong swung his iron staff, executed a dragon swoops to the ground move, and deflected the fork, striking back at the demon's head. The two fought fiercely at the entrance of the Yellow Wind Cave, exchanging blows for over 30 rounds, with neither gaining the upper hand. Seeing that the battle was stalemated, Wukong decided to use his clone technique. He plucked a handful of his fur, chewed it into powder, spat it into the air, and transformed it into over 100 Wukong clones, each wielding an iron staff, surrounding the demon in midair. The demon couldn't defend against the onslaught of attacks and hurriedly turned to flee. He opened his mouth and blew out 3 gusts of wind, which transformed into a yellow wind, blowing the 100 Wukong clones around in the air like spinning wheels. Wukong, seeing this, hurriedly shook off the fur, pulled himself together, and approached with his iron staff to strike. However, the demon sprayed a gust of yellow wind directly at his face, causing his fiery golden eyes to tightly shut, unable to open. Wukong retreated hastily, but the demon didn't pursue, instead retreating back into the cave. Meanwhile, Beiji, hearing the fierce wind blowing and plunging the world into darkness, hurriedly held on to the horses and guarded the baggage, crouching between the hills. He kept chanting prayers and making vows. Worriedly, he suddenly saw Wukong, tears streaming down his face, coming towards him. Beiji hurriedly asked what had happened, and Wukong waved his hand, saying, "The evil wind of the old demon is formidable. It's difficult to defeat him. Let's find a place to stay for the night, and we'll come back tomorrow to defeat the demon and rescue our master." Beiji agreed repeatedly. The 2 men led their horses and carried their belongings out of the valley. They heard barking from the south slope of the mountain, stopped to observe, and saw a courtyard. They hurriedly went to seek shelter there. An old man came out of the courtyard with several farmers carrying hoes and brooms. After asking about the 2 men's origins, he invited them into the courtyard and offered them seats and tea. After tea, he brought out bowls of sesame rice to ease their hunger. Seeing Wukong's swollen, tearful eyes, the old man asked about the reason. Wukong recounted their encounter at the Yellow Wind Cave. The old man said, "This wind is called the threefold god wind, capable of enveloping the sky and earth in darkness, causing distress to ghosts and spirits, splitting rocks and cliffs, and taking lives. Only immortals can be unharmed by it." Wukong said, "Although I am not an immortal, my life is not in danger. It's just that my eyes are sore." The old man said, I once met a peculiar person who passed on a remedy called the 3 flowers and 9 suns ointment, which can cure all ailments. Wukong eagerly requested the old man to treat him. The old man went into the inner room, took out a small jar made of agate, removed the stopper, and used a jade hairpin to extract a little eye medicine for Wukong. He instructed him not to open his eyes, to sleep peacefully, and he would be better by morning. Beiji spread out their bedding and invited Wukong to rest. Wukong, with closed eyes, groped around randomly, causing Beiji to chuckle secretly. Wukong sat on the bedding, circulated his energy, and finally fell asleep around 3 in the morning. At dawn, Wukong wiped his face, opened his eyes, and said, Indeed, it's a good medicine. My eyes feel even brighter than usual. Turning his head, he saw no buildings or windows, only old locust trees and tall willows, and the 2 of them slept on the grass beneath the trees. When Beiji woke up and found no one around, he panicked and quickly got up, asking, Where's my horse? Wukong said, Isn't it tied to the tree? Where's the luggage? Wukong said, Isn't it beside you? Beiji said, We slept like logs. Did this household move or dismantle the house? I didn't hear a thing. Wukong laughed, You fool, don't talk nonsense. Look, what's that piece of paper stuck on the tree? Beiji went to take it down, and it turned out to be a note with 4 sentences written on it. This dwelling is not an ordinary person's residence, but a temple for protecting the law, and a place to subdue demons with compassion. This miraculous medicine will cure your eye pain. Please focus on defeating demons without hesitation. Wukong said, This is the temple secretly protecting us. The old man and the courtyard were all his transformations. Wukong said, This place is not far from the entrance of the Yellow Wind Cave. You stay in the forest to watch the horses and guard the baggage. I'll go into the cave to find out about our master's whereabouts. Beiji said, You should get a definitive answer. If our master is dead, we can each go our separate ways. Wukong scolded, Don't talk nonsense. I'm going. With a leap, he arrived at the entrance of the Yellow Wind Cave. The cave door was closed, and all the demons were asleep. Without bothering to knock, Wukong used a spell, recited an incantation, and transformed himself into a mosquito, flying into the demon's cave. The door-guarding demon was snoring in his sleep. Wukong bit him on the face, and the demon woke up, shouting, My goodness! Such a big mosquito! It gave me a big lump with just one bite. Seeing that it was already light outside, he opened the cave door. Wukong flew into the cave with a buzzing sound and saw the Yellow Wind Demon preparing his weapons and instructing the other demons to be vigilant. At this moment, a little demon came to report, I was patrolling the mountain and saw a monk with a long mouth and big ears sitting in the woods. If I hadn't run fast, I would have almost been caught by him. But I didn't see the hairy-faced monk from yesterday. Wukong paid no attention, flew past the hall, and went straight into the rear cave. He saw that the door was tightly closed. Wukong squeezed through the crack in the door and found himself in a large garden. Tang Sanzang was tied to a fixed wind stake in the garden, tears streaming down his face as he chanted Wukong's and Wu Jing's names. Wukong landed on Tang Sanzang's bald head and called out, Master! Tang Sanzang joyfully exclaimed, Wukong, I thought I was going to die. Where are you? Wukong replied, Master, I'm right above you. Don't worry, don't be anxious. I'll subdue the demon and rescue you. Wukong flew back to the demon's cave and saw the Yellow Wind Demon mobilizing his troops. At this moment, a little demon came to report, I was patrolling the mountain and saw a monk with a long mouth and big ears sitting in the woods. If I hadn't run fast, I would have almost been caught by him. But I didn't see the hairy-faced monk from yesterday. The Yellow Wind Demon said, if son Wukong is not here, he must have been blown to death by the wind, or he went to seek reinforcements. The other demons said, if the Monkey King wasn't blown to death by that wind, and if he goes to get some divine reinforcements, what shall we do? The Yellow Wind Demon said, what are we afraid of? Even if he brings divine reinforcements, how can they withstand my wind? Unless he brings the venerable Lingji Bodhisattva, there's nothing to fear. Wukong, listening to this from the rafters, was overjoyed and quickly flew out. Wukong revealed his true form and found Beiji in the woods. He told him that as long as they found Lingji Bodhisattva, they could subdue the yellow wind demon. But they didn't know where Lingji Bodhisattva lived. Just as they were in trouble, they suddenly saw an old man walking out by the roadside. Beiji said excitedly, "To know the way down the mountain, you have to ask someone who's been there. Why don't you go and ask him?" Wukong went up to him respectfully and said, "We are the disciples of the Tang priest on a journey to the west. Yesterday, we lost our master here. We've come to ask you, sir, where does Lingji Bodhisattva live?" The old man said, "Lingji Bodhisattva lives on Mount Little Sumeru, 2,000 miles away. Just follow the winding road south." Wukong looked back at the road and saw that the old man had turned into a gentle breeze and disappeared without a trace. He left behind a note by the road, which read, "To the great sage equal to heaven, the old man is Li Chongqing. Mount Little Sumeru has the flying dragon staff. Lingji Bodhisattva once received the Buddha's reinforcements." Wukong said, "So it was the White Planet old man who showed us the way." Beiji hurriedly bowed to the sky and said, "Benefactor. Thanks to the White Planet old man's approval back then, this pig was able to save his life." Wukong said, "You know how to be grateful, but don't reveal yourself. Just stay here and guard the luggage and horses. I'll go to Mount Little Sumeru to invite the Bodhisattva." Wukong soared on his somersault cloud towards the south. Soon, he saw a high mountain with auspicious clouds swirling around it. In a valley, there was a Buddhist temple with melodious bells and chanting, and wisps of incense smoke. Wukong went straight to the gate and saw a monk counting his beads and chanting. He quickly went up and bowed, saying, "I am Sun Wukong, the disciple of the Tang priest from the great Tang of the eastern land. I have come to see the Bodhisattva on urgent business. May I please be announced?" The monk hurriedly went to report to the abbot. Upon hearing the report, the Bodhisattva put on his robes, lit incense, and welcomed Wukong. Wukong entered the hall and sat in the guest seat, saying, "My master is in trouble at Yellow Wind Ridge. I specially request the Bodhisattva to use your great magical powers to subdue the demon and save my master." The Bodhisattva said, "I am bound by the commandments of the Buddha to suppress the yellow wind demon here. The Buddha has bestowed upon me a wind-sealing pill and a flying dragon staff. I have captured the demon, spared his life, and allowed him to return to the mountains in hiding, but he must not harm others. However, he dared to harm your master, which goes against my teachings, and I am to blame for this." The Bodhisattva wanted Wukong to stay and have a meal with him, but Wukong was anxious about his master and pleaded with the Bodhisattva to leave immediately. The Bodhisattva took the flying dragon staff and, along with Wukong, flew on clouds. Before long, they arrived at Yellow Wind Mountain. The Bodhisattva said, "Great sage, this demon is somewhat afraid of me. I will stand in the clouds, and you go down to challenge him to come out. I will use my magic once he's out." Following the Bodhisattva's instructions, Wukong descended from the clouds without hesitation, held his iron rod, and broke open the door of the cave, shouting, "Demon, release my master." The little demons inside the cave panicked and reported to the Yellow Wind Demon. The Yellow Wind Demon said, "This monkey is so disrespectful. This time, I'll use my wind god's wind to blow him to death." He quickly armed himself, took his steel fork, and rushed out of the cave. Seeing Wukong, the demon didn't say a word, but immediately attacked, aiming for Wukong's chest. Wukong defended himself with his rod. After a brief fight, the demon turned and tried to summon the wind from the sun direction. At this moment, Lingji Bodhisattva threw the flying dragon staff down from midair. Lingji Bodhisattva chanted a spell, and the flying dragon staff transformed into an 8-clawed golden dragon, diving straight at the Yellow Wind Demon. The golden dragon grabbed the Yellow Wind Demon with its claws, lifted him up, and threw him against the rocky cliff. The Yellow Wind Demon revealed his true form, which turned out to be a yellow-furred weasel. Wukong rushed over, ready to strike with his rod, but the Bodhisattva stopped him. The Bodhisattva said, "Great sage, don't kill him. I need to take him to see the Buddha." He was originally an enlightened old mouse at the foot of Mount Ling. He stole the clear oil from the crystal lamp, fearing punishment from the Vajra. He fled here and turned into a demon. The Buddha decided he shouldn't die, so he entrusted me to apprehend him. If he harms others, I'll take him to Mount Ling. Now that he has attacked you, and plotted against Tang Sanzang, I'll take him to see the Buddha, clarify his crimes, and fulfill the Buddha's task. Wukong thanked the Bodhisattva, who then flew back westward. Meanwhile, Beiji was anxiously waiting in the woods when he heard Wukong's call from outside the forest. "Beiji, come out with the horses and luggage." Beiji hurriedly packed up and happily ran out of the woods. Wukong informed Beiji of how they subdued the Yellow Wind Demon. They returned to the cave and killed all the demons inside. They then went to the rear garden and freed their master. Tang Sanzang, now untied, asked, "How did you two defeat the demon? How did you rescue me?" Wukong explained how they sought the help of Lingji Bodhisattva to subdue the demon. Tang Sanzang was deeply grateful and prayed earnestly. The three of them had some food and tea in the cave before leaving. They continued their journey westward along the main road. To know what happens next, please see the next episode, The River of Flowing Sands.